Once upon a time, in a small coastal village named Seagull Shores, lived a brave and curious boy named Jack. Jack was 12 years old, with a mop of unruly brown hair and a heart full of adventure. He lived with his grandmother, who often told him stories about the legendary pirates who once roamed the seas. Jack's favorite story was about Captain Blackbeard, a fearsome pirate who had hidden his treasure in a secret cove. One sunny afternoon, while exploring the attic of his grandmother's old house, Jack stumbled upon a dusty old chest. The chest was covered in cobwebs and looked like it hadn't been opened in decades. With a sense of excitement, Jack brushed off the dust and slowly lifted the lid. Inside, he found a collection of old books, a rusty compass, and a rolled-up piece of parchment. Jack carefully unrolled the parchment, and his eyes widened in amazement. It was a map. The map was old and faded, but Jack could clearly see the outline of the coastline and a small island marked with an X. At the top of the map, written in bold letters, were the words, "The Lost Treasure of Pirate Cove." Jack's heart raced with excitement. Could this be the map to Captain Blackbeard's hidden treasure? He quickly ran downstairs to show his grandmother. "Grandma, look what I found," Jack exclaimed, holding up the map. His grandmother adjusted her glasses and studied the map carefully. "Well, I'll be," she said with a smile. "This looks like the real deal, Jack. But be careful, my boy. The path to treasure is never easy, and there are always dangers lurking." Jack nodded, his determination unwavering. "I have to find it, Grandma. It's the adventure of a lifetime." Jack knew he couldn't embark on this adventure alone. He needed a crew, and he knew just who to ask. He ran to the village square, where his best friends, Emma and Liam, were playing near the fountain. Emma was a smart and resourceful girl with a knack for solving puzzles, while Liam was strong and brave, always ready for action. Jack called them over and showed them the map. "Whoa, this is amazing," Liam said, his eyes wide with excitement. "Do you really think it's real?" Emma asked, studying the map closely. "I do," Jack replied, "and I need your help to find it. What do you say?" Emma and Liam exchanged glances and then nodded. "We're in," they said in unison. With their crew assembled, Jack, Emma, and Liam began to plan their journey. They knew they would need a boat, supplies, and a lot of courage. They decided to set sail the next morning, at first light. The next morning, the three friends met at the small dock where Jack's grandfather's old fishing boat was tied up. The boat, named the Sea Sprite, was a bit worn, but still seaworthy. They loaded it with supplies, food, water, ropes, and a few tools they thought might come in handy. As they set sail, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the water. The sea was calm, and the wind was at their backs. Jack stood at the helm, feeling a surge of excitement and anticipation. "All right, crew," Jack said, trying to sound like a seasoned captain. "Our first stop is Skull Island. According to the map, that's where we'll find the first clue." Emma and Liam nodded, their eyes fixed on the horizon. They were ready for whatever lay ahead. After a few hours of sailing, they reached Skull Island. The island was small and rocky, with a dense forest covering most of it. As they approached the shore, they could see a large, jagged rock formation that resembled a skull, giving the island its name. They anchored the boat and waded ashore. The map indicated that the first clue was hidden somewhere near the skull-shaped rock. They began to search the area, looking for anything that might lead them to the treasure. After a while, Emma called out, "Over here, I found something." Jack and Liam rushed over to where Emma was standing. She was pointing at a small, hidden crevice in the rock. Inside the crevice was a metal box covered in rust. Jack carefully opened the box and found a piece of parchment inside. It was a riddle. To find the treasure, you must be bold. Follow the path where the waters are cold. Through the cave of whispers, deep and dark. The next clue lies where the sharks do bark. Jack read the riddle aloud, and the three friends pondered its meaning. Where the waters are cold, that must mean the northern part of the island, Emma said, her brow furrowed in thought. And the cave of whispers, that sounds like the whispering cave we heard about in the village, Liam added. Jack nodded. Let's head north and find this cave. They made their way through the dense forest, following the map's directions. The terrain was rough, with thick underbrush and steep hills, but they pressed on, driven by the promise of adventure. After a few hours of hiking, they reached the northern part of the island. There, they found the entrance to the Whispering Cave. The cave was dark and foreboding, with a cool breeze emanating from within. Here we go, Jack said, taking a deep breath. Stay close and keep your eyes peeled for anything unusual. They entered the cave, using a flashlight to light their way. The walls of the cave were damp and covered in moss, and the air was filled with the sound of dripping water. As they ventured deeper, they began to hear faint whispers, as if the cave itself was speaking to them. Creepy, Liam muttered, glancing around nervously. Stay focused, Emma said. We need to find the next clue. They continued through the cave, following the twists and turns. Eventually, they reached a large chamber with a pool of water in the center. The water was crystal clear, and they could see strange glowing fish swimming beneath the surface. Look! Jack pointed to the far side of the chamber, where a large stone pedestal stood. On top of the pedestal was another metal box. They hurried over and opened the box. Inside was another piece of parchment with a new riddle. To the island of shadows you must sail, where the winds are fierce and the seas are pale. Beware the guardian, fierce and strong. The next clue lies where the sirens song. Jack read the riddle aloud, and the three friends exchanged determined looks. The island of shadows. That must be Shadow Island, Emma said. It's known for its treacherous waters and strong winds. And the guardian, that could be anything, Liam added. We'll have to be careful, Jack nodded. Let's get back to the boat and set sail for Shadow Island. As they sailed toward Shadow Island, the weather began to change. The sky darkened, and the wind picked up, whipping the sea into a frenzy. Waves crashed against the boat, and rain began to pour down. Hold on tight, Jack shouted, gripping the helm as he tried to steer the boat through the storm. Emma and Liam held on to the sides of the boat, their faces pale with fear. The storm was unlike anything they had ever experienced, and they were being tossed about like a leaf in the wind. Just when they thought things couldn't get any worse, a massive wave crashed over the boat, drenching them all and nearly capsizing the vessel. We have to keep going, Jack yelled over the roar of the wind. We can't turn back now. With sheer determination, Jack managed to keep the boat on course. After what felt like an eternity, the storm began to subside, and the sky cleared. In the distance, they could see the outline of Shadow Island. We made it, Emma said, breathing a sigh of relief. But their relief was short-lived. As they approached the island, they noticed something strange. The waters around the island were eerily calm, and a thick fog hung in the air, obscuring their view. This place gives me the creeps, Liam said, shivering. Stay alert, Jack warned. We don't know what we're up against. They anchored the boat and cautiously made their way onto the island. The fog was so thick that they could barely see a few feet in front of them. The ground was rocky and uneven, and the air was filled with an eerie silence. As they ventured further inland, they began to hear a strange, melodic sound. It was faint at first, but as they got closer, it grew louder and more distinct. "That must be the sirens' song," Emma whispered. "Be careful. It said that their song can lure sailors to their doom." They pressed on, following the sound of the song. Eventually, they reached a large, open clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a massive stone statue of a creature with the body of a lion and the wings of an eagle. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its mouth was open in a silent roar. "That must be the Guardian," Jack said, his voice filled with awe. As they approached the statue, the ground beneath them began to shake, and the statue came to life. The creature's eyes glowed brighter, and it let out a deafening roar. "Run!" Jack shouted, but it was too late. The Guardian was upon them, its claws slashing through the air. Thinking quickly, Emma grabbed a nearby rock and threw it at the creature's head. The rock struck its eye, causing it to roar in pain and momentarily lose its balance. "Now's our chance," Liam shouted. "Let's find the clue and get out of here." They searched the area frantically, looking for anything that might be the next clue. Finally, Jack spotted a small, hidden compartment at the base of the statue. Inside was another metal box. He grabbed the box and opened it, revealing another piece of parchment with a new riddle. "To the final island you must go, where the treasure lies, deep below. Through the maze of bones you must tread, but beware the curse of the undead." Jack read the riddle aloud, and the three friends exchanged worried glances. "The final island, that must be Pirate Cove," Emma said. "But the maze of bones and the curse of the undead, that sounds dangerous." "We've come this far," Jack said, his determination unwavering. "We can't turn back now." Chapter 8. The Maze of Bones. They returned to the boat and set sail for Pirate Cove. The journey was uneventful, and they reached the island by nightfall. The island was small and desolate, with a dense jungle covering most of it. As they approached the shore, they could see the entrance to a large cave, partially hidden by vines and foliage. "That must be the entrance to the Maze of Bones," Jack said, his voice filled with both excitement and trepidation. They anchored the boat and made their way to the cave entrance. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the ground was littered with bones of all shapes and sizes. "Stay close," Jack warned as they entered the cave. "We don't know what we're up against." The cave was dark and foreboding, with narrow passages and twisting tunnels. The walls were lined with bones, and the air was filled with an eerie silence. They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing through the cavern. As they ventured deeper into the cave, they began to hear strange noises, whispers, groans, and the sound of bones rattling. The further they went, the louder the noises became. "Something's not right," Liam said, his voice trembling. "It's like the bones are alive." Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake, and the bones around them started to move. The skeletons of long-dead pirates began to rise from the ground, their empty eye sockets glowing with an unnatural light. "Run!" Jack shouted, but the skeletons were already upon them. Thinking quickly, Emma grabbed a torch from her backpack and lit it, holding it out in front of her. The skeletons recoiled from the light, giving them a momentary reprieve. "Fire! They're afraid of fire!" Emma shouted. Jack and Liam quickly lit their own torches. They returned to the boat and set sail for Pirate Cove. The journey was uneventful, and they reached the island by nightfall. The island was small and desolate, with a dense jungle covering most of it. As they approached the shore, they could see the entrance to a large cave, partially hidden by vines and foliage. "That must be the entrance to the Maze of Bones," Jack said, his voice filled with both excitement and trepidation. They anchored the boat and made their way to the cave entrance. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the ground was littered with bones of all shapes and sizes. "Stay close," Jack warned as they entered the cave. "We don't know what we're up against." The cave was dark and foreboding, with narrow passages and twisting tunnels. The walls were lined with bones, and the air was filled with an eerie silence. They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing through the cavern. As they ventured deeper into the cave, they began to hear strange noises, whispers, groans, and the sound of bones rattling. The further they went, the louder the noises became. "Something's not right," Liam said, his voice trembling. "It's like the bones are alive." Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake, and the bones around them started to move. The skeletons of long-dead pirates began to rise from the ground, their empty eye sockets glowing with an unnatural light. "Run!" Jack shouted, but the skeletons were already upon them. Thinking quickly, Emma grabbed a torch from her backpack and lit it, holding it out in front of her. The skeletons recoiled from the light, giving them a momentary reprieve. "Fire! They're afraid of fire!" Emma shouted. Jack and Liam quickly lit their own torches, and together they fought their way through the maze, using the fire to keep the skeletons at bay. It was a harrowing journey, but they finally reached the end of the maze, where a large, ornate door stood. "This must be it," Jack said, his heart pounding with excitement. "The treasure is behind this door." They pushed open the door and entered a large, dimly lit chamber. The walls were lined with gold and jewels, and in the center of the room stood a massive treasure chest, overflowing with coins and precious gems. "We found it," Liam exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder. But as they approached the chest, they heard a low, guttural growl. From the shadows emerged a figure, cloaked in darkness. It was the ghost of Captain Blackbeard himself, his eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "You dare to steal my treasure?" the ghost roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You will pay for your insolence." The ghost raised his hand, and the treasure chest began to shake. The coins and gems inside began to swirl around, forming a whirlwind of gold and jewels. The whirlwind grew larger and larger, until it engulfed the entire chamber. Jack, Emma, and Liam held on to each other, trying to resist the pull of the whirlwind. But it was too strong, and they were lifted off their feet, spinning around in the air. "We have to stop him," Jack shouted, struggling to be heard over the roar of the whirlwind. Thinking quickly, Emma reached into her backpack and pulled out a small silver mirror. She held it up, reflecting the light from their torches onto the ghost. The ghost let out a piercing scream as the light hit him, and the whirlwind began to dissipate. The coins and gems fell to the ground, and the ghost began to fade, his form dissolving into nothingness. "It's over," Emma said, breathing a sigh of relief. With the ghost of Captain Blackbeard vanquished, the chamber fell silent. The treasure chest stood before them, its contents glittering in the dim light. "We did it," Jack said, his voice filled with awe. "We found the lost treasure of Pirate Cove." They approached the chest and began to examine its contents. There were gold coins, precious gems, and all manner of valuable artifacts. But among the treasure, they found something even more valuable. A journal, written by Captain Blackbeard himself. Jack opened the journal and began to read. It contained the story of Captain Blackbeard's life, his adventures, and his final days. It also contained a message written in bold letters. To those who find this treasure, know that it is not the gold or jewels that hold true value, but the journey you took to find it. May your adventures be as grand as mine, and may you always seek the true treasure, the bonds of friendship and the thrill of discovery. Jack closed the journal and looked at his friends. He's right, he said. The real treasure is the adventure we shared and the memories we made. Emma and Liam nodded, their eyes filled with understanding. We should take some of the treasure back to the village, Liam said. But let's leave most of it here for others to find. Jack and Emma agreed, and they each took a few coins and gems as a memento of their adventure. They then made their way back through the maze of bones, using their torches to keep the skeletons at bay. When they finally emerged from the cave, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the island. They returned to the boat and set sail for home, their hearts filled with the joy of their adventure. When they returned to Seagull Shores, they were greeted as heroes. The villagers were amazed by their story and the treasure they had brought back. Jack, Emma, and Liam became local legends, and their adventure was told and retold for generations to come. But for Jack, Emma, and Liam, the greatest treasure was the bond they had formed and the memories they had made. They knew that no matter where life took them, they would always have the adventure of a lifetime to look back on. And so, the legend of the lost treasure of Pirate Cove lived on, inspiring countless others to seek their own adventures and discover the true treasure that lies within. The end.